Let's go now to someone who was there in the room for all the negotiations and more. Leader of the Nationals in the Senate, Bridget McKenzie. Well, you would have heard Andrew Clennell there. He thinks you're trigger happy. You've walked away too peremptorily, that you should have just basically signed the document and not worried about issues like nuclear until there was a proper review. What would you say to that?
Well, Andrew can afford to spout his views on Sky. I'm actually responsible to the people that elected me, as is every one of our MPs and senators in the National party room. And we made a very reasonable request of a trusted partner, particularly around the 4 policy issues that you've outlined. And unfortunately, the Liberal Party were unable to guarantee those as coalition policies. And so we made a very heavy decision, not one taken lightly, but one that we made collectively to lead the coalition at this time.
Yeah, what I don't understand, Bridget, and I made the point with Andrew, and sometimes I think with media they just, want the sport of the debate, but the precedent sits in your favour, and that for 20 or 25 years, as long as I've been around politics, you've always accepted that after an election, the policies stand unless they are specifically repudiated, right? Unless you've decided X and Y are what sent us to the wall in the election. This is very different. So what Susan Lee is saying, that we have no policies until we have the review. We might have values and principles, but none of our policies that we would have been elected on a couple of weeks ago exist anymore. They're all gone, and we'll take 6 or 7 months to work out what we think, and then you'll know what we stand for. I don't know how that's supposed to work. How do you deal with legislation coming through the parliament in that time?
Well, exactly, Peter. And it was only less than 3 weeks ago we stood and fought on a hill to the death for these policies. And for the National Party, things like the Regional Australia Future Fund, which would a $20 billion fund to actually allow regional communities to seize the opportunities and overcome the challenges of the next couple of decades, nuclear power, divestiture of supermarkets, something that's been long held, as you would know. Ron Boswell was a huge champion of that particular policy. And to actually have had the internal fight within the coalition to achieve that as a coalition policy, to then say that's all off the table, wasn't acceptable to our party room. And we understand the Liberal Party has to go through a period of reflection, of review, and to work out who and what they're about. We respect them enough to make the space for them to be able to do that. We can't be a successful coalition if they don't get that right. We know who we are and what we're about. We're not afraid to say it, and we just want to get on with fighting the Labor Party and to stand up for the regions on the policy platform that we took to the last election, and we'll continue to do that.
I guess the risk is the longer you stay apart, you as a party will take positions on things. The Liberal parties, I presume they won't until they have a review, or they'll be forced, though, by legislation. As I say, I think it's just an unrealistic thing that's going to take months and months. But anyway, let's assume that you both go down the path of having your own separate policy positions. When you come back to talks about a coalition, what do you do with the 6 or 7 things over there, and they'll have 6 or 7 where you can't meet anymore because you've not thrashed them out as you normally would around a shadow cabinet table? The longer you're apart, the harder it's going to be to come back together again.
Well, that's potentially the case, Peter, and it's more in sorrow than anger that we've made this decision. We know we are, as you know, I'm a coalitionist. We are a strong, stable government for our great country, and we've been in government more often than we've been out of it in our 80-year coalition relationship. But at the end of the day, the partnership needs to be mutually beneficial for both parties. Now, the Liberal Party, yes, we were handed an historic defeat on May the 3rd, but the reality is for the National Party, we got a 10% swing to us away from the Labor Party in a seat like Bendigo, a regional capital. So we want to take it up to Labor. We want to have a positive agenda going forward into the next 3 years, and that will potentially mean there are more issues to resolve than less when the time arises that we come to renegotiate a coalition agreement. But today we made the decision. We respect our Liberal Party colleagues. David and Susan have made it clear that they'll continue to talk and that the door's always open. But that shouldn't stop us from taking it up to elbow on behalf of the people that sent us here to Canberra, and we won't resile from doing that.
Yeah, I think it's rocky water ahead. You would know that though.